While Kirche has only gained more viewers and money in the past 2 months, right-wing content creators have banded together to bully Anna Valence and me into silence. The real cancel culture comes from the right because of the shift in the political climate. While transphobia, racism, anti-Semitism, etc. is a lucrative trend, the truth doesn't matter anymore. And if you go against the fascist ideology, these people will stop at nothing. As a trans person on the internet, I have faced so much harassment that I thought I got used to it. However, after Asmongold quote-unquote reacted to me, my perspective has changed. When Vice put the articles, it showed Kirche and her right-wing friends that they can get away with anything. It doesn't matter how offensive,
these biological women claiming to be men perpetrating shootings,
how hateful she is.
They're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England that doesn't even have like a large Muslim population. And I was like, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. I get increasingly angry when I see people who are just like, well, they're not doing anything illegal, so like you can't really be mad at them. It's like this is very clearly a hostile takeover.
People will throw money at her and anyone else who pushes the same rhetoric, while the opposition gets silenced. I'm incredibly disappointed at Vice for giving in and removing the articles by Anna Valence to the sheer mention of a lawsuit because it did an incredible disservice to free speech. I know that if Vice faced backlash for this, it would reinstate them, which is why I'm asking you to make your voices heard. In yesterday's stream, I have addressed the video about me on Asmongold's Clip channel, but I've seen more and more slop content pop up that push the same narrative. This is an emotional and traumatic topic for me, and since I'm incredibly vulnerable right now, I hope you don't mind yesterday's crash out. As a trans person who didn't have access to education and healthcare as a kid, it took me years to not only learn about the fact that I'm not alone with my struggles, but I had to unlearn a lot of the internalized transphobia. I thought there was nothing I can do about my gender dysphoria, and I just needed to find a way to cope. This led to me spending my childhood and teenage years isolating myself and being depressed, anxious, and suicidal. When I found out that I wasn't just a crossdresser, a femboy, and so on at 17, I had to spend years educating myself on trans topics in order to understand myself better. It took me until I was 22 to have the strength and courage to come out, and then 3 more years to find a therapist who was knowledgeable enough to help me start HRT. I create content to share my experience and teach about the things that I have learned from experts in the field. My opinion is being backed by scientific evidence and every major medical association, but transphobes dismiss any studies that show them. However, I'm neither a therapist nor work in the medical field. I'm literally just an anime fox girl on the internet who happens to piss off the worst types of people, who now need to push a disgusting narrative in order to justify their transphobia, to show everyone what happens when you go against their gender ideology. The worst part of it all is seeing other trans or queer people in general fall for their rhetoric. I've been there, and I hope by providing more context I can clear up most, if not all, misconceptions. Although you do need to agree that trans kids exist just like gay kids or straight kids. I'm at a breaking point, and as one of the bigger trans rights advocates in this space, I feel like I need to keep pushing through this, but I just can't do it alone anymore. I will be taking some time off of content creation, but I will make a return on June 3rd, 5 PM CEST at twitch.tv/NeraVT. Make sure to join the Discord if you want to stay updated. The link to it is in the description. I can't thank you all enough for your support, and I hope you enjoy my breakdown. I made the video talking about the slop tubers with this one clip of Asmongold cutting me off mid-sentence, 7 seconds into the video, to portray me in a way that has been used to justify the harassment, the hate crimes against the trans and gay community. I'm just going to play this. I've certain things that I want to address.
So we have a person here who is a big fan, very big fan of giving children puberty blockers.
Forcing trans kids to go through a puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity and causes them to have depression, anxiety, and a high risk of suicidality just because you believe that trans people shouldn't be allowed to exist is bad, actually. It admits children should take anabolic steroids if they are groomed through Munchausen by proxy. Like the level of transphobia in this statement. HRT, they're not anabolic steroids, and you cannot groom a cis kid to become trans. Trans kids exist. I don't understand how this is a controversial statement. So this channel is also, being hosted by Asmongold's Clipper or editor. This isn't even like, you know, just an Asmongold clip from a stream. This is not a stream highlight. This is just like, you know, him being a tool to push a certain propaganda.
Giving children puberty blockers. Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be part of society.
This tweet was on purpose more controversial. This was a thumbnail for a YouTube video. I changed the thumbnail. I think right now the thumbnail says, "Let trans kids be trans." And by trans people will never leave kids alone, it obviously means that trans people are not going to give up on the next generation of trans people, of trans kids. Because we know what we've been through and we want their lives to improve. We're tired of being a scapegoat, being used as a tool for right-wingers to garner votes. Would you debate Asmon about this? I don't believe he would like talk to me. I don't like debates in that sense because what I'm saying is just like factually true information. It is backed by every reputable medical association, and it's in line with the WPATH standards of care 8. It is in line with my personal experiences and with the life experiences of other trans people that I know. And he literally would just go, "Nuh-uh. Well, I think," and like, you can't have a debate like that. It wouldn't work. Asmon doesn't know enough about the topic in order to understand where he is wrong. There's no common ground. It is just like blatant ignorance from his side. It is malicious ignorance. Like, the outrage is being used for him to get more money, get more views, get more relevance, being boosted in the algorithm. There's like no point in like engaging with that more than I already have. I just hope that like maybe some people out there are going to hear the things that I'm saying and they're like, well, maybe she does have a point. Anyways, let me rewatch that because of the crash.
So we have a person here who is a big fan, very big fan of giving children puberty blockers.
I mean, it's pretty important to say what type of child it is. It is children who are questioning their gender identity in order to prevent them going into the tenor stage before they were like talking to a therapist to figure out what the right path for them is. The goal of it is literally just to give someone who is questioning their gender identity time to work with experts before deciding what the right path for them is. It is just like in line with the standards of care 8 from the WPATH. Trans people will never leave kids alone. Obviously, what I'm talking about is trans people are not going to give up on trans kids. We want trans kids to have a better future than we had. We want them to have the education and care that we needed. And we just want them to be a part of society and not be used as a scapegoat by fascists to mobilize people so they get more and more power, so they can exploit more people.
Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be part of society. It is not transphobic to not want kids to transition.
Yes, it is. Because your reasoning for trans kids, for not wanting trans kids to transition, is the fact that you do not have an understanding when it comes to gender affirming care for trans youth, and you are literally pushing transphobic talking points. So I'm going to like bring up Paint in just a second, but let's watch and let them finish the point because I don't want to use something out of context that might be like dangerous. Here's the same talking points that refuse people hysterectomies. Yeah.
This is not transphobic. This is normal.
No, this is not normal. It is just based in ignorance. You don't know enough about the topic to make these calls, but I'm gladly going to explain this to you. So this is the claim. I argue that it is transphobic for the following reasons. you do not want children to transition because you don't understand that trans kids exist. You do not want trans kids to receive gender affirming care because you do not believe that trans kids exist. You believe that they were groomed into this. They were forced into this. They were manipulated because they're children. Nobody's born in the wrong body type of things. That is like the rhetoric, and all of it is based in transphobia. You are not suddenly turning from a cis kid to being a trans adult once you hit 18. Once you hit 25 and your brain has been fully developed. What you want to do by preventing children access to puberty blockers, you don't allow them to work with experts to give them the time they need to not be rushed into irreversible changes done to them naturally through the wrong puberty. Also, you do not want them to receive the HRT because you think that for some reason HRT is something irreversible and it's like life ruination or whatnot. And puberty is like this holy natural thing. But HRT induces the same effects of puberty. But the difference is you're not forcing them through changes that do not align with their gender identity. You are not going ahead and you're like, well, okay, little Timmy, I know you really feel uncomfortable being a boy and you really hate that we are calling you by he, him pronouns, but you just have to endure that until you're 18 and then you can go and try to find help. So maybe in the next, I don't know, 8 years, someone is going to help you. When your puberty is finally accomplished, then you can actually go ahead and go through second puberty, which was completely unnecessary because you could have just went through the proper one initially. You wouldn't have to deal with all these irreversible changes done to you. Hector is reacting to you, to my video. Oh god, I don't care. Because it's literally the same rhetoric. What I'm saying here is like this rhetoric has been pushed for such a long time. It was also being used by Nazi Germany to push for discriminating against trans people, going to the first gender clinic in Europe, in Germany, and killing the staff, burning all the research. And you know what? If you go back in time 1,000 years ago, you're still going to find people whose gender identity doesn't match their biological sex of the body, which Asmon has denied. Oh yeah, because actually it was burned because he heard that it was written in Jewish. And that is what I mean. You do not know enough about the topic, and you think that like, oh, you just want to protect children. It is common sense to protect the children. But what about the child that is suffering from gender dysphoria, that is being tortured because people don't want to allow them to get the proper help and care that they desperately need? You're literally harming a child, not just physically, but mentally. Oh, go to therapy, go to therapy. What do you think is the first step in order to get approved for gender affirming care if you're trans? If you're a cis boy and you have gynecomastia, you have natural breast growth, you can literally just go ahead and get a double mastectomy because boys shouldn't have breasts. But if you're a trans boy, then it's like, oh, you're just a little bit confused. You don't know what you're talking about. You're going to grow up and don't you want to be a mom? What about your fertility? You have to think about like starting a family. That's always like the rhetoric. It's literally just infantilizing and patronizing trans people because you assume that being trans is just a phase. You're going to grow out of it. And if we offer more care, then more people are going to suffer. Oh, did you know that 10% actually regret transitioning. What about the 90% who don't regret it? Even the percentage that start HRT and then figure out, hey, it doesn't align with my body. I'm going to stop taking HRT and I'm going through my body's puberty. Like, that is still an option. If you are a child and you are transitioning, you have constant guidance. If you're not receiving that help, you are literally just experiencing constant changes with your body that is going to actively ruin your life. I know what I've been through. I know what my path was like. I know what the stories of other trans people actually is. I know what the experience, or like what the experts of opinion of all the major outlets, of all the major organizations actually is. We know that a lot of these practices have been in place for the last, I don't know, 30 years. They've been refined. They would have been so much more advanced. We would have been so much further in this whole journey if these wouldn't have burned it down, if they wouldn't have destroyed all the research. But I guess it was written in Jewish, so this is why it is transphobic to say these things. Because you do not understand the medical process, the journey that trans people go through, and you refuse to acknowledge the existence of trans kids because you heard the stories of a woman forcing a 2-year-old kid to be trans. Crazy. Anyways, and it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like
That's enough.
I already talked about that in the last video that I made. Obviously, you cut me off mid-sentence. I was talking about transphobes love using kids can't consent as an excuse to ban healthcare for trans youth. However, it's interesting that they have no issues with forcing gender reassignment surgeries onto intersex infants. In the video, I talked about, hey, you know, isn't it interesting that they always obsess about age of consent, but they never really acknowledge all the other things that they are forcing children to go through in the medical field, like forcing intersex infants through gender reassignment surgery. It's the same with like, oh, kids can't consent, but the majority of gender affirming surgeries are performed on cis boys with gynecomastia. I guess then it doesn't matter if a boy has breast tissue from their natural puberty, from a natural imbalance in their body, because like the estrogen levels are too high or something, then it's okay because a boy knows they are a boy, but a trans boy doesn't know they are a boy, and a trans girl apparently doesn't know they are a girl. They don't know who they are. They're going to grow out of it. And like my response to these things are always like, can you tell me when in your past did you imagine yourself as the opposite gender for like a long period of time? Something that has been like constantly on your mind, where you're at a point that like, hey, if I would wake up as a girl, I would be so much happier. Is that something that like happened in your life? Is that something that you grew out of? Because like, if cis boys know that they are boys and they are comfortable in their skin and they're going through the right puberty, the puberty that aligns with their gender identity, how can you turn around and be like, oh, trans kids, they don't know any better? And yes, there are instances where kids can consent to medical treatment. This has nothing to do with sex. It is not about marriage. I mean, you people want to lower the age of consent for marriage, and by you people I mean Republicans in the US. Something that I really want to address is like, yes, I'm saying that kids can consent to medical treatment, gender affirming care for a reason, because if I would say that like the parents need to consent for the child, you would turn around and say then the parents are groomers because the kid doesn't know any better and they are being pushed into that. That is the agenda. This is where it all leads to. Why I'm saying these things, it is literally just to showcase that a trans boy or a trans girl knows the dysphoria that they are feeling. Obviously, they do need to work with experts so they are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, so they can go in the right direction. This is spanning over years. This is not something where you walk in. You're not walking to an endocrinologist and you're like, I feel like a woman today, so I want my estrogen, please. Like, that doesn't work. I started coming out with 22. I'm from Germany, just so you know. Obviously, when I talk about like age of consent for medical treatment, it is also like shaped by the fact that I'm from Germany and there's no fixed age. It is always looked at by case to case. But the thing is, like, I came out with 22. I had to find a therapist in order to get approved for gender affirming care for HRT. I couldn't even walk to the endocrinologist and be like, hey, I want to start HRT. I want to have cross-sex hormonal treatment. No, I needed to get approval from a psychiatrist or from a therapist to make sure that this is the right path for me, that I'm not schizophrenic, that it's not a phase, that it's not multiple personality disorder. It took me 3 years to find a therapist who was qualified enough to actually give me that approval so I could walk to the endocrinologist and start treatment. It took me 3 years. I was driving all across the country. Medical staff in these areas is incredibly rare. And using that propaganda that is being pushed, echoing it back to millions of people is so harmful for 1% of the population. But you don't care. Now, because this is the Asmongold Clips channel, we get commentary from the editor.
That's enough.
So I wasn't even planning to post this, but this genius decided to make a whole video about Asmon, and then I witnessed the biggest self-report in human history. This individual claims little children should be able to consent to life-altering hormone therapy.
The phrasing is always what gets me, you know?
To life-altering hormone therapy, because at the same time they cannot not consent going through puberty.
Cannot not consent to puberty. I don't understand the English. I'm sorry. I feel like that's like a language barrier thing. But like the point is like, it's just like drawing the similarities, because puberty induced through HRT, through hormonal treatment, is the same as someone going through their natural puberty, their body's puberty. So that is like the similarity. It's like you're talking about like children can't consent to life-altering decisions, so we need to make them go through life-altering things. Their biology destined them to go through these things. Like that is like the point. It's like drawing the similarity between it. It has the same effects because your puberty is controlled by your dominant hormone. Like if you don't produce enough estrogen as a woman, for example, you're menopausal, you need HRT. The problem that I always have is like this rhetoric of like, oh, they can't consent to medical treatment, but we need to force them through the puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity, because that is like their destined path. It is the same life-altering process. But the problem that you have is that these children, these trans kids, have a choice and are not being forced through the first puberty that is going to make dysphoria worse. Because for the most part, if a trans girl doesn't go through male puberty and instead through female puberty, a lot of things that you use as an identifier to call out trans women to be like, oh, we can always tell it is caused by going through male puberty. And these things don't exist if a trans girl doesn't go through the wrong puberty. It is just biology.
I'm at a loss for words.
When I, for example, talk about consent, the same with me saying, I need to change my editing style. The reason why I have so many jump cuts is because I can't speak. Speaking is very difficult for me, especially when I'm playing a game or something. I hate having errors in my videos, so I make jump cuts. But at this point, I do not know what has been removed because I have so many jump cuts. I don't know if that is the original video. I have to check, actually.
For words.
When I, for example, talk about consent, the same with me saying, if a trans kid cannot consent to HRT, then why can they consent to puberty? How does that work? And I don't want to allow something they could regret. If they can't consent to HRT, if they can't decide which puberty they want to go through, how do you, like, justify forcing them through puberty? I want to see what has been, like, removed. When I, for example, talk about consent, the same. When I, for example, talk about consent, it's the same. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that jump cut makes sense. Let me check something real quick. When these people talk about consent, it's always in a gross way. When I, for example, talk about consent, it is to, like, address the claims of, like, trans kids don't exist because they are too young to transition and, like, all these things. They shouldn't have HRT. It's the same with me saying, hey, you know, if a trans kid cannot consent to HRT, then why can they consent to puberty? Huh? Why did you cut that out? Was that too long? Why was that being cut out, huh? Mr. Editor? What the f? Interesting. But I'm the one using things out of context, right? I feel like you're actually proving the point of the video right by doing this. You don't care about context, you just want to push a narrative, and I'm just like a medium that can be manipulated, be twisted in a certain way so you can have your little transphobic moment and weaponize it, get more money out of it, get more views. You don't care about the truth, you don't care about the facts, it's just propaganda. And that is why you're slop tubers. And I don't want to allow something they could regret. If they can't consent to HRT, if they can't decide which puberty they want to go through, how do you, like, justify forcing them through puberty? I still don't understand how they completely miss the point. Like, I don't get it. They don't want context, they want to cherry pick, yeah. They want to push an agenda. Asmon, I'm so tired of the transphobia. I've been hearing the shit for how long? 6 years? 7 years now? Probably even longer. I am so tired of it. But you don't care. And that's crazy to me. Oh, why are you obsessed with children so much? Yeah, you must be one of those PDF files, huh? I want trans kids to have a future because 1 in 5 are ending their lives. It's only getting worse because of people like you, because of the narrative that is being pushed, because of the harassment that trans people face, because of the propaganda through the government, getting denied access to not only healthcare, but also losing your housing, being discriminated against at work, in school, in sports. Like, you can't escape it. This is not a trend. Why would anyone pretend to be trans in this world where being transphobic is so lucrative? I don't get it. It's just the same rhetoric being echoed back at me thousands of times, and then people come along being like, oh, you're stuck in an echo chamber. I've never had an echo chamber as a trans person on the internet, because it didn't matter if it was a forum, a Discord server, video games. I always faced backlash because I'm trans and I didn't have cis passing privileges. I made my community for people like me, and we still have people like you invade those spaces. People in the comments on my video after your video dropped being like, oh, everybody in here is so delusional. No, we just know the facts. You've just never spoken to a trans person before, and it's getting so tiring. And what we are saying literally aligns with the expert's opinion, but you also do not trust the experts. I don't get it. Are you telling me that a young girl that has been abused by their uncle wanting to get an abortion isn't able to consent to that, so we need to force a young girl to carry out a child because it is not competent enough to consent to an abortion? A lot of them do think, yeah, I know, and it's disgusting. How are you old enough to carry out a child, to raise a child, but you're not old enough to consent to medical treatment. And now comes the worst part.
These retards are gonna get gay marriage repealed.
Did I do? It is not the fault of the trans community that fascists are taking away gay marriage, gay rights. They didn't stop going after gay rights. Trans people are being used as a tool, and what you're doing is also transphobia because you're trying to turn my community, the LGBTQ community, against people like me who are speaking out. And like, some trans people fall for it because they are so stuck in this right-wing echo chamber that they believe that anyone who is speaking out is making it so much worse, when all we are doing is fighting for our rights to have like a better future for our community, for people like us who are dealing with the same issues. It is crazy to me that you're pushing this like divide and conquer just because I dare to speak out against Kirche, right? That's what it is. You get what you deserve type of mindset, right? This is what I ask for because I'm advocating for trans rights.
Person tweeting about me. Trans kids exist. I was one. I was not groomed into this. People like Asmongold get millions.
Oh, what did you skip over? Asmon, what did you skip over? This is a threat. You don't go from 1 to 4. That is not how you read a book. This is not, you know, that doesn't work. Okay, maybe let's read everything, huh? Trans kids exist. I was one. I was not groomed into this. I knew who I was and I knew why I was different, but I never spoke to anyone about it. I didn't have trans education or representation. I was all alone with this. Emotional. And that made me anxious and depressed from a young age. Jesus Christ. Okay. It's an emotional post. We are not confused children who just need to be taught our gender roles, etc. We know that how we are perceived and how we perceive ourselves doesn't match who we are inside. We know what being trans is, even if we don't have the label for it. But we need the label to get help. You people insist on pushing the vegan dog metaphor, but here's what it actually means. The same way some force a dog to be vegan, you force a boy to be a girl. You insist that every trans boy is actually a girl and force them to act like one. It's abuse. Explain in power rate terms, Grog? Grog, can you explain this one in rate terms to Asmon?
Trans kids exist. I was one. I was not groomed into this. People like Asmongold get millions of...
Oh, that also goes further. Oh, I didn't realize that this thread doesn't end after part 4. How many posts are there to that? Let me actually look for that. From Nyara VT, confused children. Trans kids exist. I was one. Oh! 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, that's actually 10 tweets. Okay, you can read this one. I'm going to finish it, okay?
Groomed into this. People like Asmongold get millions of views spreading hatred and denying our existence, while stories of trans adults and children are being suppressed and invalidated. Oh, you just don't know who you are, or you fell for big pharma, or you're just mentally ill. I don't know about this person's history. I can't draw any conclusions on it.
Yeah, maybe if you had read the whole tweet, you could have drawn a better conclusion about it. Let's continue reading, just for fun, okay? Let's just continue reading after this one. We know exactly what we are dysphoric about, but cis people insist that we will grow out of it and be just like them. The same agenda has been used against gay people for decades, and it's just recycled BS. Society isn't just black or white. There's a lot of gray in nature, but you people rather want a child to be traumatized, depressed, suicidal, than to accept that sometimes people are different from what society deems to be the norm. I hate having to repeat myself. I hate how our cries for help fall on deaf ears because you people want a scapegoat. This anti-woke culture war is just a distraction. But instead of you people going after the real reasons why your lives are miserable, you go after innocent minorities. It's the same with blaming women and feminism for male loneliness. It's the same with blaming undocumented migrants or asylum seekers for the housing crisis. The same with the job market. You people want to ignore the root cause and point the fingers at oppressed groups because punching down makes you feel powerful. I was a trans kid and I want trans kids to live and grow up without the trauma and abuse of cis people. I want trans people to have access to healthcare and education instead of them having to hide who they are to be safe. This isn't grooming. This is making lives worth living. I wish society wouldn't make being trans so difficult. That trans people give up on embracing who they are. Gender affirming care benefits cis people, and they can access it easily, while trans people are being denied those privileges. How is that okay? How have you no empathy?
You are doing more damage to the entire trans community than you can even know.
But the audacity, the absolute audacity to say this to me after everything I've been through, after everything that I'm advocating for, that I'm pushing for, all the topics that I had to educate myself to get where I am now. I'm so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. It's so fucking annoying. It's always the same. It's literally always the same agenda, and I'm tired of it. I literally can't. I need a break. If I go to the comments, okay, let's not tolerate this behavior. Let's downvote this evil behavior. What a Reddit type comment. I didn't know wanting to help kids be normal was a bad thing. Conversion therapy is abuse. It's so funny watching this ideology get crushed in real time as the Overton window drives further and further right. Leave the kids alone. I don't contend to aging yet. It's still age and can't change a thing about it. Yeah, but you can change what puberty you're going through based on the dominant hormone that you can get through medication. Get off woke Twitter? How delusional are you? You're fueling transphobia. I'm not pushing anything onto anyone. I'm making content to share my experience. I'm making content to talk about the education that I desperately needed when I was trying to figure myself out. I'm trying to explain what it's like to be trans to cis people. My content is for adults. My streams are 18 plus. I'm trying to be a little less unhinged and do less stereotypical VTuber type of content. I'm still really uncomfortable with anyone below the age of 18 in my community. That is why I don't allow that. I'm literally just doing educational content. I'm not a medical expert, but it feels like if you're trans, you need to know so much to just get help. This has almost as many likes as it has comments. This has 1,300 comments, 1,400 likes, and a lot of them are still in the health stage. But I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that stuff. You need to respond to a Leafy clone called Sensitives. What? Just made a video crying about you. The thing is, like, what do I gain from that? It's the same rhetoric. It's the same talking points. It's the same stuff. I've been repeating it over and over again. Like, I have so many videos educating and like explaining all the views that I have. First it was Ref. I made the big video on it because that was like the big thing. Oh, yeah, things that children can't consent to medical treatment. Because if I say, oh, the parents consent to like for the child because the child cannot consent enough to this form of medical treatment, then you turn around and being like, the parents are just crazy and mentally ill and they're forcing the children, like, I'm just like set up for failure. But you people do that with trans people all the time. You also do that with trans women. If they fulfill your expectation of womanhood, then it's like, oh, you're just cosplaying woman. You think putting on a dress and wearing makeup and doing all these stereotypical things is what makes you a woman. Like, actually, you're responsible for there being actually gender stereotypes. You're enforcing these things. But then, on the other hand, if you have a trans woman who is like, yeah, I'm a trans woman, but I don't really do anything, I don't work enough for my voice. You people come along being like, oh, you should do voice training. You should do voice training. You don't sound like a woman enough. You're not putting in enough effort to be a woman. Why would I call you she, her, if you don't even sound like a woman? Have some basic human decency. Be open-minded. Use your platform for good. But no. Because you know that if you would entertain that trans kids exist, your entire rhetoric is going to fall apart. And all of your incel followers who are coming after me, who are whining in the comments, who are calling me a groomer, they would turn on you. And then you wouldn't get 60,000 views when you're streaming. I'm going to turn this into a video. It's going to be pretty difficult and I'm crying a lot. It is a really emotional topic for me. It's a traumatic topic for me. I need to gather my strength so I can keep pushing. And I think because, you know, TwitchCon is coming up, I'm just going to take the rest of the month off. I don't think I'm going to post another video. I don't think I'm going to be tweeting as much as I have. I'm going to try to take as much of a break from everything as possible. I will be streaming again June 3rd. It is a Tuesday, 5 p.m. CEST. That is when I'm planning to come back to all of this. The things that I'm saying shouldn't be controversial. They're only controversial to people who do not have an understanding of gender affirming care for trans youth, who do not understand what it's like to be trans. I'm literally just a small streamer and you people dogpile on me. Oh, you get what you deserve. How dare I want to have a better future for trans people. We are going to keep pushing. Like, I'm not going to give up. I feel like it's pretty important to speak up. And I know that it can be incredibly overwhelming because of the incredible level of hatred for the trans community on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you are. I'm really thankful for all the support that I've been receiving. I've been growing my platform a lot in the past couple of months. I'm glad that I've been able to help a lot of people. I just want to be done with transphobia. I'm so sick of it. I'm so tired of a transphobic trend that is actually just being pushed by people who want to turn it into something lucrative, who are jumping on it, being like, oh, look, I'm fighting the woke trans person on the internet. Yeah, I made a video on Yara. Please, can you watch that? Can you, please? It's so dumb. It's so pathetic. I hate this form of thing because like you just go nah, you're just taking things out of context. You're just going to be like, oh, I'm just using common sense. You just have no understanding of the topic and are weaponizing ignorance. At least there's monetization. Yeah, but like these people don't watch it. They're not watching the video. That's why it has like such a low viewer retention. And then the algorithm thinks it's clickbait, so it's not being recommended enough.
And it's not just the trans community. There's AOE damage that's happening to the gay community as a macro community because you've decided to attach yourself like a parasite to the LGBT community and then turn it into effectively a weapon for you to push this on children.
So do you agree that kids can be gay? Because people said that gay people are pushing gayness onto children. You know that, right? The audacity to claim that that is not transphobic.
90-10 issue. Who cares about the age of consent?
That is not what I said. There's no LGBT without the T. Exactly. Trans people have started the movement. We've always been fighting. Breaking news, a hetero white man speaks about minorities and is wrong. Yeah. What you just said has literally been used against gay people for decades. Oh, they're coming after your children. We just need to convert them. If you're gay, you've been abused, you've been a victim. Gay people, the LGBT people, they finally have gay marriage and they are still fighting for gay rights. Oh, you're just never fully satisfied. You always want more. But yeah, I'm tired. I need a break. The ignorance is painful and the harassment is great. I don't want to keep pushing on Twitter for now. I have been pushing pretty hard these past couple of month, and I guess it was all leading up to this. It was destined to happen eventually because of the type of content that I make and how vocal I am, how obnoxious I am, and I'm so sorry for people having to endure my voice. Did you know that I would actually have a female voice, quote unquote, if I had not gone through male puberty, because testosterone affects your voice. Estrogen doesn't fix that again. By the way, Riri Gaki got banned. I don't know what the reason, but I always think it's funny when these right-wingers, like, the first thing they do is just, like, start blaming his son. Like, I don't get it. Like, why is that the first thing they do? It's just like, oh, this right-wing fascist got banned from Twitch for saying something stupid. But Hassan is doing propaganda on stream. Hassan is talking with the Houthis. Oh my god, it's so dumb. Anyways, I do think that your voice matters, but I also know that like the harassment that I'm facing is pretty awful, and this is now the third time that a trans VTuber is basically being bullied into silence. Even though I'm not going to shut up, I still need a break to recover from everything. Wish I could stream longer, but I'm just crying. I'm just very emotional, but I'm really proud of you all, and I'm super grateful. I'm so thankful for the community that I have. Make sure you join the Discord, and I will keep you updated there. Going to talk about TwitchCon over there. I'll be back again June 3rd, Tuesday, 5 p.m. CEST. After TwitchCon, more stories to tell, and we're going to see how everything is going to develop. And I'm going to try my best to not get into arguments on Twitter. I just need to tune that off and like resist the urge of checking my notifications every 3 minutes. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.